Looks like impeachment is full steam ahead. We'll show you Nancy Pelosi's shaky press conference. Outrage society being offended. Why is this a thing? Finally, Hillary Clinton likes men. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Well, the big announcement was this morning. It was all abuzz in D.C. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, is going to make an important impeachment update at 9 a.m. Eastern. And of course, she went out there and made an impeachment update. But before I show you her impeachment update, I just want to say a couple things. Remember who's been telling you all along that they were going to impeach Donald Trump. They are. I told you this forever. Why are they? No, they're not doing it because he broke the law. They're not doing it, just because the Constitution says so. They're not doing it because it's the smart thing to do politically. It's horrible. It's political suicide. They're doing it because they created this monster clear back in 2016. Donald Trump is not being impeached for anything that happened on a phone call with Ukraine. Donald Trump is being impeached because the Democrat Party as a whole, well, they've become the party of resistance. They've become the party of meaningless gestures, the party of anger, the party of desperation. And so what do you do when you're desperate? You do really, really, really stupid things. You know that new internet trend that's out there? I'm not going to show you any because we don't cuss on this show, but you know that stupid internet trend that's out there where someone poses in front of Donald Trump's Trump Tower. It'll say Trump Tower and the person's given the tower the finger. This is the thing. I'm not making this up. This is something that people do. That's what the Democrat Party has become on a national level. That's all this is. A stupid, meaningless gesture that will have negative effects on the future of the country. I'll go into that in a minute. But it was inevitable. They're stuck with it now. That train is a-leaving, and it doesn't even have brakes on it. But here's Nancy Pelosi's very shaky press conference from this morning.
Our democracy is what is at stake. The president leaves us no choice but to act, because he is trying to corrupt, once again, the election for his own benefit. The president has engaged in abuse of power, undermining our national security and jeopardizing the integrity of our elections. His actions are in defiance of the vision of our founders and the oath of office that he takes to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Sadly, but with confidence and humility, with allegiance to our founders and a heart full of love for America, today I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment. I commend our committee chairs and our members for their somber approach to actions which I wish the president had not made necessary.
Well, that didn't look good, did it? And before we get into everything else, allow me to just say once again, that is the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Well, not exactly the part that's reeling in the next generation. Anyway, we all know why they're doing this. They have to do this. Now, before I play Nancy Pelosi's next outburst, I do want to say this. You ready for this? She did this as well as she could have done it. She did this as smartly as she could have done it. Remember, Nancy Pelosi didn't want this. They have been wanting to impeach this guy for nothing forever. And she held them off. She was the lone wolf, rumor is, in D.C., of holding this thing off. She held them off and held them off and held them off. And finally, she couldn't hold them off anymore. And now she knows she has this bear and she has to find a way to contain it. So what's the best way to contain it? Well, it's doing exactly what she's doing. Yes, they could drag this on and take it before another dozen committees and haul in another bunch of feminazi professors out there to make themselves look horrible. Or they could do what we've all been taught to do since we were little. Grab a hold of that Band-Aid and rip that sucker off. What I'm saying is announcing this early that you're doing articles of impeachment is a very, 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 very smart move, because what are we going into, people? We're going into Christmas. Everybody will have a Christmas break and a Christmas vacation, and you're not watching the news every day. And then there's New Year's. We're going into the time where you need bad news buried. So they're going to file articles of impeachment. It will absolutely pass the House by probably a direct party line vote. and then it'll move on to the Senate. Well, Nancy Pelosi has been in the United States House of Representatives since George Washington was elected to his first term in office. So she's smart enough to know that the United States Senate, when they hold their trial of the president, that's not going to go well for Democrats. Mitch McConnell is a savvy political operator. We have some very, very, very smart senators out there. When this goes to the United States Senate, the Democrats are going to look awful. So, what's her plan? Let's get it into the Senate so we can end that bad part as fast as humanly possible, because we have elections coming up in 2020. This was the smart move. Politically, this was the smart move. She has to do it. Might as well do it now. Get it over with. Well, a reporter asked her about why she hates Donald Trump, and, well, the right arm went crazy. Here.
I think the president is a coward when it comes to helping our kids who are afraid of gun violence. I think he is cruel when he doesn't deal with helping our dreamers, of which we're very proud. I think he's in denial about the climate crisis. However, that's about the election. This is about the election. Take it up in the election. This is about the Constitution of the United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love, and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me when it comes to words like that.
All right. Donald Trump, as you can imagine, took to Twitter with a response to this. Well, it was a big announcement this morning, and he said, the do-nothing radical left Democrats have just announced they are going to seek to impeach me over nothing. I love the capital letters. They already gave up on the ridiculous Mueller stuff, so now they hang their hats on two totally appropriate, perfect, phone calls with the Ukrainian president. This will mean that the beyond important and seldom used act of impeachment will be used routinely to attack future presidents. That is not what our founders had in mind. The good thing is that the Republicans have never been more united. We will win. Okay, couple things. One, he's right. When I said in the beginning about this being a negative for the future of our country, it definitely is for this reason. You know, we love to goof off on the show. I'm never going to stop doing that, but it is serious. This is serious. If you can have these party line votes to impeach presidents, well, that's going to set a precedent. That's hard to combine those two words. Good thing I'm a professional over here, but it is. From now on, it's going to be real easy for Republicans to say, you know what? We're just going to impeach your guy over nothing. And then Democrats will impeach our guy over nothing. And on and on and on we go. If this has just become a routine thing where we have a couple show trials, get some FaceTime on TV, that's not a good thing for the United States of America. That's not a small thing. I'm not one of these guys who just wants everybody to get along. I understand politics is a contact sport. That's the way it goes. But we are now entering a new era, and I don't like it. Finally, I did want to bring up one thing about Donald Trump before we move on to one more little thing about Nancy Pelosi. You see what he's been saying about the Ukrainian phone call from the beginning? It's brilliant, and he doesn't get enough credit for it. He keeps calling the phone call perfect. It was a perfect call. I've got a perfect call. The call was perfect. It was perfect. It was perfect. Now, people watch when he says things like that, and it drives them crazy. Well, maybe he should be more nuanced. Maybe he should just say, well, I wished I'd said things a little differently. Maybe, what's he doing? He's forcing the window back to his side. You don't give the left anything. You don't give them that much ground. They've proven time and time again, if you give them a cookie, they're going to want a glass of milk, so you give them nothing. You don't say there was anything wrong with the call. You don't kind of bow your head and be, well, I mean, if I had to do it, no. You do exactly what he does, even if it's over the top, even if it comes across as absurd sometimes. If they say it's horrible, if they say it's the end of the world, you don't say, well, it wasn't perfect. You say, oh, it was masterful. I wouldn't change a daggone thing. Republicans should learn from that. All the time, Republicans give ground and give ground and give ground with the hopes that the left will finally come around and play nice. The left doesn't want to play nice. They want to own you. They want to own everything. That's why they're already involved in everything. You can't buy a freaking chicken sandwich without the left throwing something in your face about it. Finally, Nancy Pelosi, again, is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. You already saw the press conference from earlier. Take a look at this little clip from Face the Nation.
E pluribus unum from anyone, and so I said from anyone, quid pro quo, bribery. Yeah, that's what.
Does anyone out there speak Spanish? Want to try to translate that for me? I find this to be really bizarre, especially in an era where every single cable news program wants to have on a psychologist. Let's see if Donald Trump is insane. Is he sane? What's his mental capacity? What are we doing? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not being mean. Again, time comes for all of us. Mental conditions when you're older happen, and it's ugly, and I don't like it watching any loved one, even my worst enemies, go through that. It's a horrible thing for family members, so I'm not jabbing at her. But that person is not okay. Everybody can see it. Everybody can hear it. Nobody but me wants to talk about it. The Speaker of the House is physically not okay. There is something wrong. Anybody think that might be important? To talk about that and other things, bearingarms.com. Cam Edwards, one of our favorites, is coming up. Hang on. Joining me now to talk about the impeachment, Nancy Pelosi, and all the other insanity in Washington, editor of bearingarms.com, Cam Edwards. Cam, I saw the press conference this morning, and before we get to Nancy Pelosi's physical condition or anything like that, here's where I stand on the whole thing. Yeah, it's kind of sad because I believe this is going to set a precedent. You could just do party line votes. But I actually think it's a smart move for Pelosi to ram this thing through faster so she can get it over with so it doesn't drag into the campaign season.
I mean, politically, you're right, Jesse. You know, look, this is a stinker of a process. This has been a failure for the Democrats. I saw the other day that the Peloton ad has the minds of as many Americans as impeachment, because more people are more people were searching about the Peloton ad than impeachment a couple of days ago. Americans are not following this closely. They're certainly not buying what the Democrats are selling. This has been a failure. It's going to be a failure. And so you're right. The best thing that she could do is to just cut bait. Other Democrats are not going to allow her to stop this process. So the next best option, as you say, is to just ram this through and then hopefully move on and forget about it and hope that voters have forgotten about this by the time next November rolls around.
I think they're in for a rocky road. I'm not sure. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi probably gets this, but I'm not sure the rest of the Democrats understand how badly the Republican-controlled Senate is going to abuse them.
I think they're starting to get an idea, which I think is why you're starting to see the freak out already begin. Democrats have controlled this process throughout the House inquiry. They've set their asinine rules, and sooner or later, as you say, this is going to go over to the Senate. They're not going to be in control of the process. Mitch McConnell has made it clear that he's willing to work with Chuck Schumer, but if he feels like Chuck Schumer's not interested in a fair process, then they'll go it alone. They'll set the rules with 51 Republicans, and it'll be just as partisan as it was on the House side. Is going to be just another political, another ring of the political circus that we've been watching. And again, it means nothing to the average American voter.
Cam, why shouldn't I root for that? Why shouldn't I root for Mitch McConnell just shoving this down Chuck Schumer's face? I don't like it that Democrats controlled every part of this in the House. Well, I get that's the political game, and now Republicans, at least in public, have to pretend like we're going to reach across the aisle. Chuck Schumer was on camera the other day saying, we should work together and be bipartisan on rules. Screw your rules. You just ram this down our throat. Guess what? It's coming for you now, baby.
Look, their idea of bipartisan when it came to gun control was pass the bills that we passed in the Democrat-controlled House, right? And that's what Chuck Schumer means when he talks about bipartisanship in the Senate. It means let us get our way. And no, I think you're absolutely right. If that is the attitude the Democrats are going to bring to the table here, as it has been, then fine. This is a purely political process, and let the Senate Majority Leader work his political magic, because the man knows a thing or two about how to play politics, Jesse.
Cam, I understand this is a sensitive subject, and for one of the very few times in my life, I'm not making fun of her for it. But Nancy Pelosi looks and sounds terrible. Now, the reason I'm not making fun of her for it is because age happens, health concerns happen, and look, I've seen loved ones go through this with an older relative, and it's really awful for people to go through. So for once, I'm not making fun of Nancy Pelosi, but why is nobody in America talking about this? She is the Speaker of the House, Cam. She's not just some, lowly congressman from some backwater place. She's an extremely powerful person. She can't get through a press conference without slurring her words, without shaking all over the place. She looks awful. How is this not a story?
Because Joe Biden called a guy fat in Iowa and then challenged him to a push-up contest today, Jesse. That's exactly why people aren't talking about this. It's sexism. It's rampant sexism. Biden sucking all the oxygen out of the room, making it all about him when we should be talking about Nancy Pelosi. Look, as you say, I felt sad, honestly, for Nancy Pelosi watching the press conference today. I disagree with her 100% politically, but as you say, she just did not seem... I mean, if Biden is not on top of his game, Nancy Pelosi didn't seem anywhere near close to even getting on the playing field. I mean, she really just seemed out of touch. But again, nobody wants to talk about it because she's the supreme leader in the House. You don't cross Nancy Pelosi if you're a politician, so her Democratic colleagues aren't going to say anything. The media would never say a cross word about Democrats. It's maybe one thing to kind of wonder and whisper if Biden has it all together. But for the most part, look, I mean, the press, they're on Team Dem, and they're not going to say anything to make folks question, Nancy Pelosi's capability as the Speaker of the House these days.
Cam, when does the Democrat Party wake up and recover? And look, obviously you're a lot older than me, so you know a lot more about this stuff. But basically what I'm saying is they're going to lose in 2020. They really are. Donald Trump is going to have packed the courts with conservative judges by the time his 8 years is over. They're going to be in the wilderness as a party because they can't seem to wake up. But I'm also not naive enough to think they're never going to wake up. That's not the way it works. Eventually, parties wake up, get their head on straight, and change. When does that change happen? Because honestly, Cam, I see this hissy fit for 3 years, and then I think about their mental state after Donald Trump wins re-election. It's going to be bad.
That would be the reckoning. And by the way, bite me for the ageist comment there, Kelly. I can remember back during the, I think it was the Benjamin Harrison administration. That's where I got the beard from, by the way, the Harris administration. Listen, I do think it's going to take a loss in 2020 because right now, if you're a Democrat, you can look around the country and you can see signs of hope, right? Oh, look, we just took back the state legislature in Virginia for the first time in 26 years. Democrats are in complete control of Virginia, and they're going to ram through a bunch of gun control laws and a bunch of laws with abortion and other, raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour. They're going to do all of these things in Virginia, and so they feel really confident. They feel like they're selling something that the American people are buying into. And on Election Day 2020, when they get the wake-up call that actually, no, that's not the case across broad swaths of the country, hopefully that will be enough to rein them in and to, get them to rethink their positions. But it's not going to happen before then.
Please tell me you were joking about the $20 minimum wage thing. Please tell me that was a joke.
It was okay. So it is actually $15 an hour minimum wage, but it's coming, and it's gonna. I think it's a 5-year plan. But Jesse, listen, you got to have me back to talk about some of these crazy things that have been introduced in Virginia because it's absolutely nuts what's happening here, and the response, especially from gun owners in the state, where we've had thousands of people showing up at their county supervisors meetings to pass Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions. It's honestly like nothing else that I've ever seen before.
Cam, what kind of show are we going to see in the Senate trial for this? Obviously, we already talked about Republicans are going to be in control of it, but do you think Donald Trump goes and testifies in that trial? Because honestly, look, it would be a treasure for me because I cover politics for a living. That would be the most watched political event of all time. Donald Trump sitting before the Senate and giving a testimony. Does he actually testify?
I mean, who knows what the president's going to do? If I were advising the president, I'd advise him not to. Look, it was the job of House Democrats to prove that Donald Trump had committed an impeachable offense. They didn't do so, right? The burden was on Democrats, and they failed to meet their own burden. I don't think that anything is actually accomplished by having the president testify at trial because, again, right now, the Democrats are the ones that should be on the hot seat, especially going forward into the actual trial in the Senate.
Yeah, I think they're in bad trouble there. Cam Edwards, editor of BearingArms.com. Thanks for joining me tonight, man.
Always a pleasure, man. Talk to you soon.
Good. Offended, outraged. Someone needs to do something. We'll give you some examples and we'll talk about why this thing exists because I know why it exists. Hang on. I'm offended. That's offensive. That's offensive. You should do something about it. I'm offended. That seems to be the society we live in today. I hate it, but I do understand it. I understand why we exist in this society now. And look, it's everywhere. It's everywhere you look. Everybody is offended by something. Something creates outrage. You remember we covered the Peloton commercial the other day and people were mad about it. A stupid exercise bike. We have Disney Plus. They're putting a disclaimer. I'm not making this up. They're putting a disclaimer before all the Disney classic movies that says, quote, this program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions, end quote. Why? Why do you need a disclaimer? Who is really benefited by putting that disclaimer on there? Does that disclaimer help the mental state of a single human being on the face of the planet? No, it doesn't. Oh, it's not. Oh, there are a million examples. There's a high school in San Francisco named after George Washington. They're voting to take down the historical murals across the school depicting a dead Indian and slaves in the cotton fields. But there's a dead soldier likewise in another mural. But Indians died in the cotton fields and so did slaves. History is now offensive? Oh, yes, you bet it is. It goes on. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I bet you didn't realize how offensive that was. It's been slammed for Santa and the other reindeer bullying Rudolph. It's a story about overcoming bullying. That's part of this, whatever. Huffington Post had a tweet in 2018 saying, quote, the holiday TV classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is seriously, are you ready for this word? Problematic. They love that word, problematic. Charlie Brown, bet you didn't know that was offensive. They had a Thanksgiving movie. Everybody's seen Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving movie. I can't believe it still gets aired on TV because they actually read the Bible. But it's been deemed racist because a black character is sitting on one side of the table alone. Who, honestly, just keep that screen up there. Who in the world looks at that picture in the Charlie Brown Christmas movie and finds racism in it? You have a seriously sick, twisted worldview if that's what you get out of that. Other examples, well, we all know about the high schools and professional teams changing mascots. I believe it was the Atlanta Braves this year no longer do the tomahawk chop. You're the Atlanta Braves. Brave is a complimentary, never mind. Another high school canceled a Tarzan play and changes to the 12th night Christmas time classic, Baby, It's Cold Outside. Oh yeah, never mind, this is the second one. Christmas time classic song, Baby, It's Cold Outside, got banned from radios last year because it has to have a more Me Too friendly version. Not only that, I believe it was John Legend and Kelly Clarkson recently did a little duet thing, and they sang the new lyrics that are less problematic. I'm not making that up. J.J. Abrams, oh, you'll love this, confirmed there will be a gay character in the next Star Wars film because it has to be inclusive, because we all haven't been waterboarded with the LGBT message quite enough. You have to now have one represented every single place you go. So what is all this? Because it gets hard to understand, and I will tell you, it's one of the things I hear the most feedback on from people. It frustrates them. They don't understand this world. They don't. Why is everything an outrage? Why does everything have to be changed? Well, two reasons. There are two reasons behind it, and I'm about to tell you what they are. The first one is the most boring reason, but it is a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a job, right? Well, if you're watching my show, you likely have a job. If this was a Democrat show, you probably didn't. But you have a job. That means you have to go to work every single day and you have to do something the boss tells you to do. You have a job. Understand that there are so many writers and journalists out there, and there are more graduating college every single year. And what do? You went to your commie high school for 4 years. You then went to your commie college for 4 years, and you learned that journalism is supposed to be Democrat activism. And you walk out the door, and where do you go? Well, you go to write for any one of a million writing publications out there, something like Huffington Post or Slate or Daily Beast. Writers got to work. Writers got to eat. And you walk in the door, and what are they telling you? Do you think you get to walk in the door of writing establishment and just write something whenever you feel like it? Whenever you feel strongly about something? No. You have a quota. I need an article. I need 2 articles. You got to write on something. So what we see, so much of what you see is a bored writer that has to come up with something. And what sells? Like being offended. If it bleeds, it leads. These people are offended. This group is offended. Oftentimes, if you dig into who is actually offended, who is actually complaining, it's some loser on the internet. It's some group somewhere of 5 people looking for something to be offended by. The writer finds it, writes out a nice, scary headline, acting like this is something big. The world's on fire over this. And then it gets spread across the internet, and you and I get to look at it and be like, why are people mad about everything? They're not. People are not mad about everything. Only a few people are mad. Which brings me to point number 2. Why are those few people mad? Because they had bad fathers. I'm not kidding. Part of being a dad is this. You must inform your children, whether it be a boy or a girl, that your feelings, while they can be important, your feelings are not an action item for other people. But that is when it comes to parenting, that's something that's severely lacking out there. You see, we have parenting today that is kind and gentle and teaches kids that they're the most treasured thing in the world. Well, you should treasure your kids, but you should also teach them things about controlling themselves. We have a society full of parents today where the kid will say, I want a piece of candy, and the parent says no. And then he starts yelling, I want a piece of candy, and the parent says no. But eventually the kid will yell loud enough and throw a big enough fit that he will get his piece of candy. That is how you raise one of these social justice warrior little monsters who is offended by every single thing underneath the sun. How does that end up? You end up with a 22, 23, a 30, 40-year-old adult with no concept of the fact that your anger, your outrage, your offense, it doesn't mean anything. It's not important. Oh, you don't understand. I hear this all the time, especially when they're yelling at me. You don't understand. I'm really mad. No, I do understand. I just don't care. I get it. I get that you're mad. But I'm really mad. No, I know you're really mad. I'm sorry your dad never told you, but I don't care, and the world doesn't care either. This is on you, parents. If you're somebody who looks at Rudolph the freaking red-nosed reindeer and feels like you need to write an article and put out a tweet talking about the bullying in it, you are a loser, and your parents were likely losers as well, and I'm sorry about that. That's just the way it goes. Coming up to talk about feelings in this outraged society, we will see if the Daily Wire's Amanda Prestigiacomo agrees with me. She probably does. Hang on. Joining me now, writer for the Daily Wire and Italian person, Amanda Prestigiacomo. Amanda, we just went over a whole bunch of things people are offended about in this country, and I know this is nothing new to you. You write about this all the time. Highly recommend Amanda's stuff, by the way. My question is, when did this become a thing? Because I don't feel like this was a thing when I was a kid. I mean, maybe it was. There was a different activist group that was mad about this. There's always some crazy bunch of godless heathens, atheist group out there mad about the 10 Commandments somewhere. But now everyone's mad all the time. Is this just too many writers that have a quota to write something problem?
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. And then part of it is also the higher education system. So we have, college professors who are telling students that they have to be offended all the time. And again, this is always attached to bigger, larger anti-conservative agendas. And the dirty little secret is nobody's actually offended. In 2019, the things that people are offended by, they're not really offended by. As you know, there's this hierarchy, and the more victimhood you attain and the more you complain and cast yourself a victim, the more status you have. The higher you are on that hierarchy. So you're not actually a victim. You are looking for things to twist to be offended by, presumably, on the facade that you're offended by, but you're not actually offended.
I don't mind that people aren't offended. I don't mind that some little idiot journalist at Huffington Post is currently tweeting out something else about how I offended them or something like that. I love that stuff. All that's fine with me. What does bother me, though, is that powerful, accomplished people respond to this outrage. They respond as if it's something important that they have to do. It's not just that some idiot writes an article about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer bullying or Charlie Brown or something like that. It's that corporations feel the need to respond to this. That's what makes me freaking crazy.
Yeah, well, the left has done a really good job of having these AstroTurf campaigns. They will like, surround something, go after advertisers, for example, right? So if you say something wrong that's quote unquote offensive, even though it's not actual offense, they will have a ground campaign to call these advertisers, pretend that they're going to boycott, even though they're not watching the show or whatever it is to begin with, or patroning the outlet to begin with. So what we have to do on the right is understand that this is just an AstroTurf campaign. It's nothing real, and withstand the faux outrage. You have to last 72 hours. Once you get past that point, it'll dissipate because it's not real. The right has had trouble understanding this, and we kind of cave to these pressures. You have to resist because it's not real outrage. You go to anyone in middle America, they're not going to be offended by any of this stuff whatsoever. They don't even know what you're talking about. It's just these coastal elites. We have, a lot of indoctrination at colleges, but it's, like I said, it's not actual real outrage.
Amanda, I understand. By the way, you're 100% right. If just hold fast, 24, 48 hours, they'll move on to something else they're mad about. Everybody will find something. But what is the solution for pushing back against it? Because honestly, I'm not sure how to approach this these days, but purely a defensive ideology, which, my libertarian-ish conservative views are, it doesn't work eventually if they're always gaining ground, if they're always gaining something. I don't want to pile on them again because I already went off about this a few days ago, but like the Chick-fil-A thing. What are we supposed to do about that? It's a private corporation. They do what they want, but all of a sudden they're ripping money away from Christian charities, and the LGBT bully mob has them giving money to the Southern Poverty freaking Law Center and things like that. I look at this, and no, I don't want to start some national boycott campaign just because that's tiresome, but I also think to myself, screw you, I'll go with Popeyes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of conservatives feel the same way, and you kind of feel powerless, and that's the only thing you can do is kind of respond with your pocketbook. And a lot of conservatives, I know even my boss, for example, Ben Shapiro, kind of, caution against these sort of boycotts or whatever, but they are effective for the left. So I don't see it as totally wrong to, use your pocketbook to send a message. So if you feel betrayed by Chick-fil-A or even bigger things than just a chicken sandwich place, if there are companies that, donate to Planned Parenthood or whatever, look into that. You can go to secondvote.com. That's a great resource. Don't spend your money there. Don't help feed the machine. And then I think your approach, just on a larger kind of rhetorical level, your approach is that you're going to say, quote unquote, offensive things that nobody's really offensive by, and you're not going to apologize. And you've done that to your success. I mean, now you have your own show, you have a radio show, and you're unapologetic. People want that. So if we just keep going with that, kind of use that tact, as you've seen through you, it's effective.
Well, I do hope the rest of America follows my lead, Amanda. I should be the one really in charge of everything, and I'm glad that the rest of the country is finally coming around.
Yeah, I was really nervous to give you all that because I know how much you love that sort of thing, but I had to say
it. All right. I also have a theory on the offensive thing part. I think it's a two-part thing. I think part of it also is parenting because, look, somebody is writing, they are writing these stupid articles and things like that. And I think we have a parenting fail in this country of parents feel like they have to give their kids the things they want. You know, Mommy, I want a new stuffed animal. Oh, okay, honey. And they feel like if the kid gets mad enough, then they really have to do it. And so kids grow up into these adults who feel that as long as I'm really mad, I'll get the things I asked for. I don't know when this parenting fail happened, but I see it all over the country. When I see some young adult talking about how they're offended by Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I think back to how my father would respond if I had ever in my life walked in and told him a TV show offended me, and it would have been ugly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this has to do with the education system, unfortunately. You know, we see this in not just colleges and universities, but in public middle school, elementary schools. They're starting with, you know, gender propaganda. You know, students aren't allowed to send home Christmas cards. They're teaching students to be offended and teaching them to be these bubble-wrapped kids who should always be offended and whatnot. So that, I think, does have an effect on who these children turn out to be. I wasn't raised in that household. I know clearly you weren't. And if I was complaining over something like that, it would be, you know, it just wouldn't be tolerated in my household. The parents ran the household. The father, my dad, ran the household. You know, saying something like that now is controversial, but it shouldn't be.
No, it certainly shouldn't be. That's the way it's supposed to be, ladies and gentlemen. Amanda Prestigiacomo, writer with the Daily Wire. Highly recommend checking her out. Amanda, I'm glad you got to talk to me today.
Thank you, me too.
Coming up, turns out Hillary Clinton likes men. Don't get mad at me, she said it. Hang on. Hillary Clinton. Oh, Hillary Clinton. She does not seem to be able to go away or step away from the public eye. And what is that? Why is that? I find that to be the most bizarre thing. Now, you could say, well, Jesse, that's because you're smarter than everyone else. And that's probably true. But the truth of the matter is these powerful people, these wealthy people, they can't ever just go enjoy life. They can't ever just go enjoy retirement because they have no life outside of being in the public eye. Look at Hillary Clinton, former First Lady of the United States. Everybody who's ever testified against her or wanted to is already dead. Stop it, I'm kidding. We can make jokes on the show. Wealthy, millionaire by now. United States Senator, Secretary of State. Granted, she's a crappy presidential candidate. You can't do anything about that. But she knows everyone in the world. Powerful people, celebrities. She's Hillary Clinton. Why is Hillary Clinton still in the public eye? Why is she doing these pathetic speaking tours that nobody wants to buy tickets to? Why is she embarrassing herself like this on Howard Stern?
He was really handsome. Really handsome. Yeah, he looked like a Greek god. He was really handsome.
No kidding. Greek god.
Yeah, he was very attractive.
Well, I don't know. I'd listen to you.
Well, contrary to what you may hear, I actually like men.
Oh, right, yeah. That's the other thing.
That's the other thing.
You're a lesbian.
Thing,
women
right?
friends.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand.
Yeah.
You've never had a lesbian affair.
Never even been tempted. Thank you very much.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put that down as number 1001 of things I did not need to know or hear from Hillary Clinton. Look, why do this? Why continue to go out there? Why even go on the Howard Stern show? And I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. They say one of the #1 killers of old people in the world is retirement. And these people in the public eye, they get addicted to it, and you end up looking sad and pathetic. You end up going on the Howard Stern show when you're the former Secretary of State. Now you're on the Howard Stern show trying to prove you're not a lesbo. I have no idea what in the world would possess the former Secretary of State to even agree to do an interview like that. But look, that's the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. I don't get it. Don't let that be you. Whether you're in the public eye or not, when you retire, have something to retire to. Don't keep going back. Go play golf, hunt, fish, ski. Well, you'll probably be too old to ski, but you understand what I'm saying. All right. We have a very special Friday show for you tomorrow. It's not one you're going to want to miss. I talk about things like Europe. Well, we have a couple interviews you're definitely going to want to hear as well. Maybe a little electoral college talk. Don't worry, I'm the one who can actually make that interesting. So don't miss tomorrow's show. I'm right on Pluto TV, channel 248, right here on the 1st. See you then.